Um, so anyway, fast forward, 2011, four or 5 years later, I'm just going on living my life, and the same type of thing where just like slowly over time you get just like a little bit of energy loss, a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of brain fog here and there, but not anything that, majorly stands out. You think, oh, I need a little more sleep or a little better nutrition or something like that. And mind you, this whole time I've been working in the same building. I worked at the same hospital for the last 17 years. And by 2015, I'd go into work, and as soon as I walked into the building, I would start having, like, my nose would start running, and I'd get tightness in my chest. It'd be hard to breathe. And I'm a nurse. I work 12-hour shifts and work 3 shifts in a row. By the end of my 3 shifts, I was sure I was coming down with something major. I was getting strep. I was getting the flu, something major. And I'm like, well, good thing I got through my shifts. I could go home and recover on my days off. I'd go home, and within hours, I'd feel better. I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, I'm positive I was getting strep throat. I used to get strep throat 4 times a year as a kid. I know what it feels like, and flu symptoms, it's not something that just goes away so it kind of surprised me a few times, but then it started becoming consistent because I worked the same 3 days every week, and when I'd be at work, I'd start getting sore throat and chest congestion and body aches and confusion and headaches and fever, even a little bit of like feverish that would come and go. And but then I'd go home and I would be fine. And other people at work mention the same thing. I come in here and my allergies just kick in, and would kind of laugh it off and blow it off. Well, over the years, over working there so many times, you're kind of privy to a lot of things, and we did a lot of remodeling, and there was a lot of mold remediation going on in the hospital, and they started coming out with new policies. If you ever see a spot on a ceiling tile, it has to be changed out immediately. Call immediately to maintenance. They'll come right away and change it. We did one major remodel in a break room, and I had mentioned to my manager, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you see the mold on the studs in the break room? And mold? What mold? There's no mold. I'm like, what do you mean there's no mold? It's right there. And, she walks in and sees it, and in a flurry, she runs out, and next time I walk in the break room, maintenance is in there screwing plywood into the studs to cover up the mold. And mind you, I'm naive, going about my job, going about my business, not really thinking there's something going on with this mold, and they're in such a hurry to cover it up and deny it and hide it. Like, I'm there taking care of my patients and doing my job. I'm not worried about what they're doing. But over the years, it kind of got suspicious that they were so antsy to hide it and cover it up. And if anybody ever mentioned mold, they were no longer working there suddenly. And so none of us, we all just learned never to talk about it. Don't bring it up. Don't say anything. Do your job and go back to your business. So that's what I did. But I, like I said, I started going into work, and I'd start having these symptoms, and I would mention to my manager here and there, I'm like, man, as soon as I walk in this building, I just can't breathe, and I get a sore throat. And she would make comments to me that made me believe I probably shouldn't be talking about that anymore. So I didn't. And I just came and did my job and went. In early 2015, I started getting, well, actually I had surgery. I broke my foot and had surgery and went back to work as soon as I could and started getting just major brain fog. I couldn't think clearly. I was I was having anxiety and depression, which weren't my normal, like, especially anxiety. Anxiety is not something that I usually get. Like, I would get sad here and there and some depression in the prior years, but anxiety was something new for me. And then the brain fog really scared me, especially where I'm a nurse and I was taking care of, little babies that are reliant on me. And then I started getting, like heart palpitations and major migraines, joint pain. The numbness and tingling in the extremities had been going on for a while, but at this point it was extreme. Facial tingling, numbness,
so all of this happened like right after the injury?
It kind of was leading up to prior to the injury, but broke my foot, had the surgery, and then after the surgery it was major. It like came on like a Mack truck.
Okay.
And so coming up to, let's see, March, or kind of mid-February, March in 2015, I just had this impending doom feeling. Like, I knew I wasn't gonna live. There was something majorly wrong. I had been going to doctors. I had been going to specialists. Sorry, this is hard for me.
Oh, it's okay. Damn.
So, I just had this feeling of impending doom. And nobody was figuring out what was wrong. And so I scheduled a last minute trip to Disneyland with my kids, which I didn't really have the time off work or the funds to do it, but I knew I wasn't going to live till summer. And so the first major thing that I went into ER in 4 times in 2 weeks at this time. First thing that took me there was major migraine, just complete photophobia. I couldn't have any lights at all. Or any sound, any lights, any movement, anything. It was just excruciating. And I couldn't get any relief from it. So I went to the ER that time because I had people telling me, well, maybe you have an aneurysm or a tumor, something causing all these neurological issues and the migraines. And went in and they didn't find anything. So, and by now I had already scheduled the Disneyland trip because I knew I wasn't going to live another couple months. But, went home and went back to work. All I could do was go to work and come home and be in my bed with the lights out and the blackout curtains drawn, and nobody could talk to me, and I couldn't even, I was so weak I couldn't even hold my phone up to answer text messages. But I would force myself to go to work because that was, it was my lifeline. It was my insurance. It was the support for the kids, the insurance for them.
Holy crap.
So I stayed the 4 days in bed and then went back to I had 2 more shifts to work, and then I was going to go to Disneyland, and I knew that I wouldn't be coming home. So I went into my shift, and it was, as soon as I got in there, I just couldn't, the heart palpitations, the breathing difficulties, the noise and the light sensitivities just were too much. And my shift started at 6, and by 9 that morning, a coworker went with me to the ER. And I work at the hospital, but there's 2 separate buildings, so they drove me over to the ER, even though I'm like, no, I need to make it through my shift and go to Disneyland, because I knew they weren't going to figure out what was going on. But they could see how bad I was, so they made me go. And sent me to the ER, and they, of course, didn't find anything. Short of telling me I was drug seeking, which I never even told them I was in pain or anything else, and just said I was dying and please help me.
They actually said that to you?
Yeah. Yep. And mind you, at the time, my whole body was shutting down at the time. My pulse rate was going from 40 beats per minute to 180 beats per minute, just on a roller coaster, up and down and up and down. And every time it hit 40 beats per minute, unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't looking at the monitor, but I could feel it. Like, whenever it would drop that low, I just thought, this is the end. I'm not going to make it out of this ER bay. My coworker was with me, and she was watching the monitor, and she called for the nurse. And when they came in, I told them, I'm like, I'm dying. Please help me. And they just told me I was fine and were going to send me home because they couldn't find anything on the blood work that showed anything. So, anyway, ended up going home after that, went and saw a cardiologist. He did come in after I insisted that I see one before I leave, and luckily, working there so long, I knew a few people, so they sent one in, and he was really nice. He's like, he says, I've seen your symptoms twice, and one is a rare hole in the heart and one is endocrine issues.